The Ice King's Last Dance. Long ago, in the farthest reaches of the northern world, where the wind howled like wolves and the snow never melted, there lived a king made entirely of ice. His palace was carved from frozen starlight and ancient glaciers, glittering blue and silver beneath a sky that never warmed. He wore a crown of hoarfrost and robes spun from snowflakes, and he ruled over a silent realm where time itself seemed frozen. This was the Ice King. He had ruled for so long that no one could remember a time before him. Not the northern owls that whispered in the frozen trees, not the seals who barked beneath the aurora skies, and not even the stars that blinked sleepily above the endless winter. The Ice King was lonely. He had once been a man, warm and full of dreams, a prince who danced in fire-lit halls and sang beneath cherry trees. But centuries ago, he had given his heart to the north wind in exchange for immortality and dominion over winter. The wind had kissed him once, turning his blood to frost and his breath to snow, and then disappeared, laughing, into the sky. He had not seen her since. Now he lived in solitude, watching over a kingdom of icicles and echoes. No one dared enter his realm anymore, not after the last travelers vanished beneath the snow. They said the Ice King turned intruders into sculptures of rhyme and kept them as guests at his eternal banquet. This, at least, was only partly true. In truth, the Ice King had never harmed anyone. But his cold, magical presence froze anything too near. So he remained alone, dreaming of warmth he could no longer feel and songs he could no longer sing. Until the day a girl came knocking on the gates of his palace. Her name was Mira, and she came from the south, where green things grew and rivers sang through forests. She wore boots patched with moss, a coat sewn from the feathers of migrating birds, and her cheeks were red with cold, but her eyes sparkled like sunlight on thawing ice. She knocked 3 times on the palace door. Not gently, but like someone who wasn't afraid. The Ice King watched from his tower, puzzled. No one had dared knock for hundreds of years. He descended the 1,000 frozen steps and opened the great silver doors himself. "What do you want?" His voice was a whisper of frost. "I came for a dance," Mira said simply. The Ice King blinked. "A what?" "A dance," she repeated. "It's the festival of the last light tonight. We light fires in the trees and dance to keep the spring from forgetting us. I thought maybe you'd forgotten how." "I remember how," the Ice King said stiffly. "But I no longer dance." Mira frowned, not frightened, just thoughtful. "That's a shame. Everyone should dance at least once a year." "You'd freeze," he said. "You don't understand what I am." But Mira stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. The snow melted around her feet, and the fire in her eyes did not dim. "I know who you are," she said, "and I'm not afraid." The Ice King stared at her. "Why not?" "Because someone has to be brave," she said. "Besides, I don't think you're cruel, just cold." That startled him more than any spell could. No one had spoken to him like that in 1,000 years. He took a cautious step backward. "You shouldn't be here." "Maybe not," Mira said, walking deeper into the palace. "But I brought music." She pulled a small instrument from her coat, a flute carved from river bone, and began to play. The notes floated through the frozen air, warm and light. As she played, the icicles trembled, and the frost on the windows shimmered like silver lace. The Ice King listened. He felt something stir inside him, deep below the layers of snow and years and silence, something he had buried long ago, a memory, of music, of movement, of a dance beneath lanterns hung from apple trees. Without thinking, he moved. Just a step, then another. And suddenly, he was dancing. The snowflakes swirled around him like 1,000 petals, and the light from Mira's eyes reflected in the crystal walls. He spun, lifted by ancient rhythm, and Mira danced too, laughing with joy. And for the first time in centuries, warmth flickered in the heart of the Ice King. But then came a crack. A long, deep shiver through the palace. The Ice King stumbled. "No," he whispered. "Not yet." "What is it?" Mira asked. "My time," he said. "It's ending." He looked at his hand. The fingers were dripping, not with blood, but with water. The ice was melting. "You woke me," he said. "You made me remember. But I was bound to winter by the north wind's kiss. And now that I feel again, the spell breaks." Mira reached for him, but her hand passed through his. "You're fading," she breathed. "I always would," he said. "But this was the last dance I needed. The last dream." Tears welled in her eyes. "There must be a way to save you." "There is no saving winter from spring," he said gently. "Only letting go." The palace groaned. Its icy towers began to soften, dripping like candle wax. The stars above shimmered brighter, and a single green shoot poked through the snow outside. Mira stood still as the Ice King stepped toward her. "Tell them," he said, "that I remembered who I was, that I danced, and that it was beautiful." And with that, he vanished, like snow in sunlight, like breath on glass. The palace melted into mist, the icicles fell like bells, and the air grew warm. Mira stood alone, but she smiled through her tears. She danced once more for him, in the clearing where the palace had stood. And when she returned to the south, she told the story of the Ice King's last dance. Each year, when winter faded and spring began to bloom, the people gathered and lit fires in the trees. They played Mira's flute and danced barefoot in the thawing grass. And they told the tale of a king who ruled the cold and found warmth in one final moment of grace. They say even now in the north, when the ice cracks in spring, it is not just the season changing, it is the memory of the Ice King, dancing